All right, so hello again there, Gene Bookers. How you doing? I hope everything is fine with you. And today we're having a new special guest with us. It's going to be Professor Kevin Werbach. And really massive pleasure to have you here today with us, Kevin. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Victor. Glad to be here.
So, well, for those who still don't know, Kevin, he's pretty much leading the biggest gamification MOOC that you can find out there. It's on Coursera.org. It's called Gamification. Truly recommended. And we're going to talk with him a bit more about gamification and education today. So well, Kevin, just an easy question to start off. You've been into gamification for quite a long time by now. You've been teaching thousands of students on your MOOC. But what is your perception on gamification at the moment? What do you think? How are we doing on this? Are we getting better? Are we going worse? Or how is it going?
I have to be honest with you. So I started getting interested in gamification around 2010 to 2011 when I saw a phenomenon happening. I saw adoption in the business world. I saw interest in bringing these kinds of things together. But I didn't see enough really serious organization, people going beyond the kind of surface level possibilities and really digging into psychology and design and game design and so forth. So that's what got me to develop the Coursera course you talked about. There's also courses that I teach at my own university, at the University of Pennsylvania, and the book I wrote with a colleague, Dan Hunter, called For the Win. Back then, I thought this is an exciting field, but it's going to grow very fast, and then the fad will end in a couple years, and people will move on to other things. And turns out I think I was right at some level about the aspect of great rising excitement and then the sense of disappointment. But here we are a few years later, and I still see adoption of gamification growing. And I still see companies and organizations and universities and other adopters of gamification still being at the starting point, still saying, this sounds really interesting, can you give me some basic pointers? So that tells me that we actually still have a ways to go, both in development of the field as well as in the widespread level of adoption.
All right, and that's good to know to have the same excitement as always. And you've mentioned your book For the Win, which is also really recommended. And there is one thing that keeps surprising me because you usually say that games like World of Warcraft, and enough you've played quite a lot, inspire you in some kind of way. Would there be any kind of elements or game mechanics or stuff like that you would truly recommend when designing a gamified experience? Would that be points by just leaderboards, or is there anything out there that we cannot miss when designing a gamified experience?
To be honest with you, I think it's the wrong approach to start with the elements and to say which element is more powerful than another, which element is better than others. I think the game elements are really important, don't get me wrong, but I think you need to start with an appreciation that, first of all, there's more to the experience than the elements, and second of all, two systems may use the same game elements. I can show you two examples which both have points and both have quests and both have achievements, say. And one is awfully designed and works very poorly, and one is fantastic. So the question is really partly about how you integrate them and partly about how you ensure the right fit for your context. So that's why I always start in the design process I go through with people with making sure you understand exactly what your goals are, and then making sure you understand exactly who the players are, who's participating, and what's right for them. Because if you don't do that and just jump to the elements, then I think you are likely to run into something that it may work, but it's not going to have the kind of sustained engagement and really create the kind of user experience that we want to create.
And following a bit on the topic of the book For the Win, I know that it's been massively a success. Are you planning on releasing a new edition, or are you planning on releasing a new book that is a bit more advanced, or how is this going to be in the next years?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say is one of the exciting things for me getting into this field early is how many other people have gotten involved, like you and like a number of other experts in the field of gamification, Mario Herger and Yukai Chao and Roman Rakwitz, Gabe Zuckerman, a lot of these other people who take things in different directions than I do, focus in some cases on different areas, and I think that's fantastic. So I certainly don't feel a need to be the only one trying to develop and systematize the field. I'm fairly distinct in that I'm teaching in a major business school, and so I'm connecting up with people who study the nature of management, study the nature of organizational behavior, study social psychology, study marketing in a very robust quantitative way. So I think that's something that I can bring to bear, but it's definitely not just me trying to develop these ideas. To answer your specific question, though, Dan Hunter and I actually have a companion book to For the Win that's called the Gamification Toolkit, which is a short book that digs deeper into game elements. So after I just told you that you shouldn't only focus on the game elements, I will say you should focus on the game elements. Just first make sure that you get the design framework and those pieces in place. And then I really see the elements, as the title suggests, as a toolkit, as a set of options that you can look to put into any project. So the Gamification Toolkit will be available in May, also from Wharton Digital Press, which published For the Win. We made it available early at a discount to the students in the current session of my MOOC, which is just finishing up. But that'll be out in a couple of months. And then I am continuing to do ongoing work in this area. So at some point I anticipate I'll do an advanced course and an advanced book that digs more into the research, in particular on psychology, as well as some of the more specific and more sophisticated design principles that I've seen from the organizations that I've worked with and studied.
Which is quite interesting, like quite a lot of new stuff coming up. Good stuff. And now focusing a bit more on the framework and all the things that you've mentioned. Imagine that I'm a student and I want to implement gamification in some kind of education context or environment. So where should I start from? How can I do gamification in my class, for example?
Yeah. So I try not to focus initially on specific context, because I think what it takes to do gamification well in education is really the same thing it takes to do it well in business or in crowdsourcing or some other application. So that's the first point. So I would say, again, go through that process of making sure, first of all, you understand exactly what your goals are. Because we have different kinds of goals. Is this system being designed to improve student performance? Or is it being designed in the first instance to engage people, to have get them to feel more committed to the learning? Is it to get them to stay involved? Now you may say, well, it's for all those things, fine. But if you had to rank them, which is the most important? I think it's really critical to make those decisions, and it's not that one of them is the correct answer. It's that if you don't start by asking why at a very precise level, then you'll create something that may not serve your goal. So I would start with that. Then I would ask, again, what are the specifics about the population you're talking about? Is this a group of children in a class? Is this a bunch of executives in an executive education session? Is it corporate training? Is it people in college? What's the context? And then what particular population is it? What kind of students are they? What subject are they in? How old are they? What do we know about them? And then try and use that as a foundation. The simple PBL, points, badges, leaderboards, is a fine starting point, and so you could certainly, in a simple way, start from what it is you want to incentivize and motivate, whether it's doing well on a test or going through levels of an assignment, and give points for everything, and then have various kinds of rewards. But I would encourage you or someone doing this design to think about it in a broader way, to really spend some time brainstorming all of the things that you could bring to bear, all of the different ways that you could use different game elements and different game design techniques. Think a lot about progression, think a lot about deep intrinsic engagement of people before you go to implementing the specific elements of the system.
All right, that's a good piece of advice. and taking a bit more your experience as a professor, you can teach a lot of people along the year. Do you think that it is kind of necessary to implement gamification at this very right moment, like at the moment in schools and universities, seeing that we are facing kind of a new generation of students with all those YouTubers, with all the esports, with all that stuff. Is it necessary to apply gamification to schools and universities right at this point? And how far are we from this objective if the answer is yes?
Well, as I said in the first answer, we're a ways away from the objective. So it's a tool, I think, that can be very effective today. It's not necessary. If you have a choice between doing much better pedagogy, much better teaching, and gamification, I would say wait on the gamification. But it's certainly a valuable tool. It's a tool that does fit in with the technological shift in education. All of the new learning management systems and platforms are going to be gamified if they aren't already. And as things move more online and we're more focused on data collection and analytics, and gamification fits in with that really well. So I think it makes sense today, but by no means is it necessary. By no means is it the only or the best way. I mean, education is such a huge area, and really learning, which is what we're talking about, is far bigger than formal education. And as you go around the world in different contexts, there are lots of challenges out there, and some of them gamification can address. Some of them are totally different challenges, and so we should start with solving the biggest problems first.
Yeah, I pretty much agree that gamification is not the only thing, of course. So one last question for today. I think we are all pretty optimistic about gamification. I think it's evolving. We're all learning every day. So what is your perception on the future of gamification? Tell us your thoughts on how all of this is going to evolve in the upcoming years.
Oh, I don't know. But I think we have to get more robust best practices and case studies. I still have lots of people coming to me and saying, can you give me an example of gamification in this field? Or can you tell me the right way to do it? And we're starting to go in that direction, but that needs to become more sophisticated and more based on data. And I think we'll get to that point. It also needs to become easier. So as you get an understanding of best practices, and you get things more integrated into systems, then it becomes a question of, well, okay, if I'm doing a course, then there's a bunch of features in the learning management system, and gamification is one of them. And there's a starter of, okay, here's the one way you might set this up. Click this button to do it this way, and some guidance. So it'll be easier for people to get started without having to go and find things from scratch. I think that's gradually where we're going to go. I also suspect, and people have been predicting this for several years, there will be a lot more gamification that gets done without being called gamification. I don't think the name's going to go away or the practice is going to go away, but I think we'll see more and more of systems that may be called motivational systems or behavioral systems or whatever they're called, engagement systems, that are really gamification, and they're embedded inside the existing tools, and I think that will allow adoption to happen more for the people and organizations that get stuck on this word and this association with games. I think it's great, but not everyone does.
Yeah, I think, well, however we call it in the future, it will grow and evolve into some kind of thing that we don't really know how it is going to evolve.
Yeah, but it's not going away. I'm pretty confident.
No, I totally agree with you. I don't think it's going to go away. So well, Kevin, always a pleasure to be able to talk to you, and well, I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much again. And I hope that everything goes fine with that new book, with all the courses and with all the new materials that are coming, and of course all the best, and we'll stay tuned to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the course.
Thank you. Bye bye.